What's up everyone, and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Islam Makhachev talks future fight with McGregor versus Chandler winner. UFC lightweight champion Islam Makhachev has no doubts in his mind that he will retain his title in Perth when he steps into the octagon against Alexander Volkanovski. Leading up to the fight, Makhachev has already revealed his future plans to move up to 170 pounds after clearing out his division. However, for the time being, his future is at lightweight. With a logjam of contenders at 155 pounds, including former champion Charles Oliveira and streaking contender Beneil Dariush, everyone is wondering who gets the next crack at the winner of UFC 284's Makhachev versus Volkanovski fight. In the wake of the recent announcement of a future showdown between Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler, many have predicted that if McGregor gets this victory, he could slide right into a title shot against the winner. Makhachev spoke about the situation leading up to his fight with Volkanovski, saying,
Chandler versus Conor. It's good fight for MMA fans, but these both guys from me where I know and from we have between us long way. This just good fight for the fans, and that's it. My fans gonna upset if this happen, but I told you, if UFC call me, I never choose someone. If UFC call me, I'm gonna be ready.
In addition, Makhachev has gone as far as to predict that with a loss, Michael Chandler could retire from MMA for good after going just 2-4 inside the octagon. Of course, with no date set for the clash between McGregor and Chandler, it's entirely possible that the UFC books a fight between Charles Oliveira and Beneil Dariush to determine the #1 contender at 155 pounds. Regardless of what the UFC has in store, it all hinges on how things play out in Saturday's Clash of Champions. When the octagon door closes in Perth, who do you think secures the win? Drop your predictions in the comments section below. Robert Whittaker reacts to Khamzat Chimaev fight. This week, undefeated 2-division contender Khamzat Chimaev broke some pretty big news, revealing that he would likely be fighting former middleweight champion Robert Whittaker. While discussing the fight, Chimaev stated that it was all love between he and Whittaker, explaining that the two were going to put on a show for the fans. Whittaker was recently asked about this fight on an episode of Submission Radio, where he broke things down, saying,
I think he has a lot of strengths. I think I have a lot of strengths. I think I'm a hard fight for him. Just the same. Quite good with my hands. Can stuff a lot of takedowns. Hard to hold down and squirmy, you see. It'll be an interesting fight. That'll be a showstopper for sure. I'm sure it'll get a lot of people interested and excited.
Whittaker, of course, has only lost to Israel Adesanya since moving up to middleweight back in 2014. Given his status as one of the best fighters in the history of the UFC's 185-pound division, he will certainly provide quite the test for Khamzat Chimaev. At the same time, Chimaev has been on a tear since joining the UFC, going 6-0 since joining the promotion in 2020. How do you see things playing out between the two? Drop your predictions in the comments section below. Michael Bisping weighs in on Conor McGregor's return fight. Throughout the course of his career, Conor McGregor has been accused of cherry-picking easy fights. Time and time again, his peers and analysts have questioned the matchmaking when looking at his opponents. Early in his career, it was a headlining showdown with Dennis Siver. More recently, it was his welterweight clash with Cowboy Cerrone. Sprinkle in the leaked Dana White DMs where McGregor called for a fight with Diego Sanchez, and the criticism has gained some traction online. With McGregor's comeback fight against Michael Chandler finalized, UFC Hall of Famer Michael Bisping believes that the Irish superstar deserves some respect for taking a fight with Chandler rather than accepting a fight against Tony Ferguson, who is in the midst of a 5-fight skid. He spoke in a video released on his YouTube, saying,
"But has he still got it? That is the big question. And that's why I respect him for taking this fight. There was easier fights for him to take. There was a rumor that McGregor was going to go up against Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson would have been, with respect to Tony, kind of a more winnable fight. Even though Tony and Chandler went up against one another and Tony started it well, it ended up with him getting front kicked into oblivion."
With Chandler hungry to bounce back after his recent loss to Dustin Poirier, how do you see things going between he and McGregor? This weekend, some of the world's best fighters are headed off to Australia for their shot at becoming a world champion. Two current champions face off for the lightweight title, and while they're wrapping up their camps, we've teamed up with DraftKings to give any new customers a win of their own. All new customers that sign up using our promo code MMAZone and bet at least $5 on UFC 284 will instantly receive an additional $200 in bonus bets. You heard me right. New customers that bet just $5 on UFC 284 will instantly get $200 in bonus bets deposited into their account. If you're wondering what you can use your $200 in bonus bets on, try out a same game parlay where you can combine multiple bets from the same fight, like what round the fight will end and who the winner will be, for a shot at even bigger winnings. DraftKings is the only sportsbook that lets you parlay multiple picks on the same fight. If mobile sports betting isn't available yet in your state, don't worry. You can still get in on the action with DraftKings Daily Fantasy. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers who use promo code MMAZone and bet $5 on UFC 284 will get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code MMAZone only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Nathaniel Wood out of UFC 286 after freak accident. Unfortunate news surfaced this week that England's own Nathaniel Wood has been forced out of his UFC 286 showdown against Lerone Murphy due to a freak accident sustained at the gym. Wood took to social media with a message for his fans, which read, "It is with a heavy heart to announce I will no longer be fighting in London. It seems I just can't get a break in this game with constant setbacks. A freak accident landing on wood and trim in wrestling practice. Sorry for all those who are coming to see me. Going to have a sit down and think about some things. The highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows. Unfortunately, I cannot bend my knee until these stitches are out." Prior to this fight, Wood had been on a bit of a tear, ripping off back-to-back wins in 2022 after returning from a long layoff. On the flip side, Murphy has gone undefeated in the UFC with the exception of a drawback in 2019. So far, no word yet on whether the UFC will look to find Lerone Murphy a replacement opponent or pull him from the card entirely in hopes of rebooking the fight at a later date. Before we continue, make sure you give that like button some love and be sure to subscribe to the MMA Zone for all of the latest news. Joe Rogan reveals bad news. Longtime UFC commentator Joe Rogan will not be flying out for Saturday's Clash of Champions in Perth. In recent years, Rogan has limited his schedule to exclusively cards in the United States. However, fans held out hope that he would make the trip to see the lightweight title fight between Islam Makhachev and Alexander Volkanovski. With fight week underway, the commentary assignments have been finalized. Commentary duties will be handled by Michael Bisping, Dominic Cruz, and John Anik, marking quite the shakeup as Daniel Cormier is also set to miss the card. Bisping and Cruz, of course, have a notable friendly rivalry, which has seen the men go back and forth a number of times in the past. In addition to the headlining fight between Islam Makhachev and Alexander Volkanovski, the card will also feature an interim featherweight title fight between Yair Rodriguez and Josh Emmett. The main card will also see welterweights Jack Della Maddalena and Randy Brown, heavyweights Justin Tafa and Parker Porter, and light heavyweights Jimmy Crute and Alonzo Menifield all square off. In the featured preliminary bout, Australia's own Tyson Pedro will square off with Modestas Bukauskas in a highly anticipated light heavyweight clash. The card goes live for early prelims on UFC Fight Pass at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, leading up to the main card on pay-per-view at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. Fight community split on predictions for UFC 284. With time winding down before UFC 284, the fight community continues to remain split in regards to who they think gets the job done. On the one hand, many believe that the grappling of Islam Makhachev will prove to be too much for the featherweight king, despite his claims that he plans to prove a point by striking with Volkanovski. On the other hand, many believe that the pound-for-pound kingpin will prove why he is considered the best fighter in the world today. With a combination of speed, footwork, and an indomitable spirit, Volkanovski and his fans feel this is his chance to shock the world once more. Former UFC lightweight champion Rafael dos Anjos recently gave his prediction on the fight, saying, "I see Volkanovski with a real chance to surprise Islam," he said. "The guy already weighed more than 200 pounds. I think he will shock the world on Saturday and win on points." At the same time, however, Big John McCarthy believes the grappling advantage of Islam Makhachev will simply be too much. He spoke on a recent episode of his Weighing In podcast, saying,
I love Alexander Volkanovski. I think he's a tremendous fighter. And everyone's going to talk about all the things that he's been saying about the people, you know, that he's training with, and they can't take him down, and he's so much stronger now, and all these things, Josh. And I'm not saying he's not stronger, but what percentage of stronger are you? It can't be that much. All right. It's not enough to make up the difference, because there is a huge difference when it comes to the grappling of both of these guys. And
with the betting odds currently having Makhachev as a sizable favorite going into this fight, it'll certainly be interesting to see how things play out in this one. Thank you so much for joining us today. What do you make of what's going on in the fight world right now? Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on all the latest news from the MMA Zone. See you next time.